If you're an author, content creator, or crafter who incorporates content created by someone else, you need to understand what copyright infringement is and how the fair use doctrine or defense to copyright infringement applies. If you create YouTube videos and have copyrighted music in the background, you've infringed on someone's copyright. If you create t-shirts with copyrighted images, you've infringed someone's copyright. The fair use doctrine can allow you to use copyrighted material under limited circumstances. Fair use is a defense for copyright infringement. It doesn't eliminate the infringement. In this video, I will explain what constitutes copyright infringement and how the fair use defense may apply in your circumstances. Hi, I'm Dr. Ken Henry. I'm a practicing attorney in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm also a content creator. I apply my unique skill set and experience to help entrepreneurs navigate the intersection of the law and entrepreneurship. I will not provide legal, accounting, or financial advice in this video. You'll need to consult with your attorney, accountant, or financial advisor for that advice. So let's talk about copyright infringement and the fair use defense. So what is a copyright infringement? It's when a copyrighted work is reproduced, distributed, performed, publicly displayed, or made into a derivative work without the creator's permission. Some obvious examples: illegally downloading music files, uploading someone's copyrighted material, or downloading licensed software from an unauthorized site, modifying and reproducing someone's creative work without making significant changes, recording a movie in a theater. Now here's a famous case where copyright infringement crossed paths with politics. Shepard fairly used a copyrighted photo taken by Manny Garcia in 2008 for the Associated Press to create the Hope poster for the Obama presidential campaign. The AP filed suit claiming infringement. Fairly used fair use as a defense. Garcia joined, claiming that he owned the copyright. In the end, the case settled. The parties agreed that that Fairly would not use any more of AP's photographs without getting a license from AP to do so. Now this is important because willful infringement of someone's copyright could lead to a $250,000 fine per offense. It could lead to a civil judgment for damages caused by the infringement as well. So it's important to understand that using copyrighted material is not something that courts look kindly upon. And I've seen so many copyrighted materials in flea markets and other places that you just wonder why people take the risk. But understand that an infringement can be okay under certain circumstances called the fair use doctrine or defense. So what is fair use? Fair use applies to the use of copyrighted material for a limited, transformative, or educational purpose. For instance, use for comment, criticism, or parody can be covered under the fair use doctrine. Limited copying for traditional classroom instruction may also fall under the doctrine. Comment and criticism examples include quoting from an article in a news report, quoting a few lines from a song in a review, copying part of a newspaper or magazine article by a teacher for classroom instruction. Parody is the ridicule of a work through comic imitation. Courts understand that some of the original work will have to be included in the parody. Do you remember Weird Al Yankovic? His songs are an example of parody. By and large, courts prefer non-commercial over commercial use, but just because the use is non-commercial does not automatically qualify it as a fair use. There are no hard and fast rules as to what constitutes a fair use. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent on legal fees to fight copyright infringement claims using the fair use defense. Yet courts have not crafted a clear, concise definition for what constitutes a fair use. When determining whether a use is a fair use, courts apply 4 factors in a balancing test. First, the purpose and character of the use. This is a major factor. The court will examine how the copyrighted material will get used. Is it for a commercial purpose? If so, the scrutiny applied by the court will be greater than if it is not commercial. The court will also look at whether the work is transformative. This type of use generates the most litigation. The court will look at whether the work being defended as transformative adds something new and substantial to the copyrighted work with a further purpose or character, altering the first with new expression, meaning, or message, and does not substitute for the original use of the work. The nature of the copyrighted work will also be looked at by the courts, and the courts will look at whether the work is creative or informational. If creative, the courts will closely scrutinize the work claiming fair use. Courts will also look at whether the copyrighted work is published or unpublished. The third factor is the amount or substantiality of the portion used. Courts examine the amount of material copied, but even a small amount of copied material can weigh against fair use if it takes the heart or most valuable and pertinent portion of the work. The fourth factor is the effect of the use on potential market for or potential value of the work. Courts find this factor is tightly linked to the transformative nature of the work claiming fair use. If the work claiming fair use negatively impacts the market value, even an unpublished work's potential market value, the use is likely not to be found a fair use. Now let's look at a recent case where the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals applied the four factors above in the case of Dr. Seuss Enterprises LP versus Comics LLC. Comics was a group comprised of former Star Trek episode writer and illustrator and a fellow Trekkie. They created what they termed a mashup by creating Oh, the Places You'll Go, Boldly Go from Dr. Seuss's Oh, the Places You'll Go. The court found that the comics creation borrowed extensively from Dr. Seuss's work and did not fit the definition of a parody or transformative work because it was basically a side-by-side adaptation of the Dr. Seuss work. The court went so far as to count the number of limbs on trees in an illustration in the comics work and found that they were exact copies of those in Oh, the Places You'll Go. One really interesting fact about the case is that the creators of the comics work suspected that a court might find that their work was not fair use. They also considered buying a license, but they did neither and spent tons of money defending their creation as fair use. They committed the first of many common mistakes content creators make. They didn't consult an attorney first. Now, works in the public domain are not subject to copyright infringement. These works are those where copyright is expired or the creator of the work has waived copyright. For example, the novel War and Peace is in the public domain in the United States and may be copied, distributed, quoted, etc. without limitation. But just because a work is publicly available doesn't mean that it's in the public domain. For example, many copyrighted works appear on the internet, but they're not in the public domain. Other common mistakes content creators and crafters make include thinking fair use is a right. It's not. As we've discussed, fair use is subject to specific conditions and limitations, the four factors. Non-profit use automatically qualifies as fair use. No, it doesn't. Again, the four factors will be applied, albeit with less scrutiny than for-profit use. Thinking there's a predetermined amount that can be copied. There's not. Even a small amount may weigh against fair use if it's the heart of the work that's copyrighted. Thinking that changing the medium it automatically renders a transformative use. Not so. Taking a copyrighted picture and creating a t-shirt to sell would not be fair use. Thinking that publicly available content is available under to use under the fair use doctrine without consideration of copyright. False. The bottom line is this: if you have any question as to whether your intended use is fair use, consult an attorney. The cost will be money well spent. I hope you found value in this video. If you did, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell so that you'll receive notifications the next time we drop a video.